My name is Leora Bennett. And the night my grandfather casually asked about the apartment he bought for me, my entire past suddenly stopped making sense. My 21st birthday dinner wasn't supposed to feel heavy. My mother had decorated the table with candles and insisted on placing a cake at the center, like I was still 10 years old. Everything looked warm, polished, perfect. The kind of setting that made outsiders think our family had everything under control. But perfection has a strange habit of hiding secrets. I sat across from my grandfather, trying to smile politely while everyone talked about ordinary things: work, weather, investments, anything that didn't require honesty. That was how our family worked. Conversations stayed clean. Emotions stayed hidden. Then he looked at me. Not sharply, just calmly. "Is the apartment comfortable?" he asked. At first, I thought he was joking. "Which apartment?" I replied with a small laugh. That was when the air changed. My mother stopped moving. Her fork hovered in midair like someone had pressed pause on the moment. My father leaned back in his chair slowly, too slowly, buying time he didn't actually have. My grandfather didn't repeat himself immediately. Instead, he shifted his gaze toward my parents. "The one near your university," he said. "The property I transferred funds for." My heartbeat grew louder. Because there was no apartment. Not for me. Not anywhere. "Grandpa, I rent a room," I said carefully, "with 3 other students." The silence that followed felt heavier than shouting. My mother lowered her hand to the table. My father cleared his throat, the sound dry and forced. Then my grandfather spoke again, still calm. "3 years ago," he said, "I transferred $312,000 for a property purchase in her name." The number hit me harder than anything else. $312,000. While I had been living in a crowded apartment with broken heating and thin walls that barely kept winter out. My father tried speaking first. "The situation became complicated," he said slowly. Complicated. That word felt like an insult. My mother followed quickly. "There were investment delays," she added. "Temporary adjustments." Temporary. Another empty word. Each explanation sounded thinner than the one before it. And suddenly memories began rearranging themselves in my mind. Every time my parents told me money was tight. Every lecture about independence. Every moment I felt guilty asking for help. All of it, built on something that wasn't true. My grandfather didn't argue. He didn't shout. He simply reached into his jacket and took out his phone. "David," he said calmly when the call connected, "verify the location of that transfer." David was his lawyer. And the moment he spoke that name, the power in the room shifted. My parents didn't interrupt him. They didn't protest. Because paperwork doesn't lie. For the first time in my life, I saw uncertainty in their faces. Not anger, not confidence, but fear. Real fear. When the call ended, my grandfather placed the phone back into his pocket with slow precision. "We'll confirm where the funds were redirected," he said quietly. "No acquiescence. No yelling. Just certainty." Dinner ended shortly after that. No one touched the cake. No one mentioned my birthday again. Later that night, he asked me to stay behind while everyone else left. We sat inside his office. The same quiet room where he used to handle business calls when I was younger. The walls felt heavier there, lined with framed achievements and decades of decisions. He studied me carefully. "I should have spoken to you directly years ago," he said. I shrugged slightly. I didn't know there was anything to discuss. He nodded once. "You do now." The next morning, his lawyer confirmed everything. The money had not disappeared. It had been redirected into a luxury commercial property, owned entirely by my parents. Not temporary. Not delayed. Used. That was the moment the truth stopped being confusing and became undeniable. Weeks passed quietly. There were no loud arguments. No dramatic scenes. Just documents. Transfers. Legal adjustments. Control moving where it should have been all along. Then came the final change. A new financial structure was created. This time directly in my name. No intermediaries. No hidden approvals. Just clarity. Months later, I moved into my first real apartment. Small, bright, and finally mine. The windows let in sunlight instead of cold drafts. The silence felt peaceful instead of lonely. My parents didn't visit. And strangely, that felt easier. Because the greatest change wasn't financial. It was emotional. For years, my future had felt like something controlled quietly behind closed doors. Now it felt visible, real, protected. And as I stood inside that apartment for the first time, holding the keys in my hand, I realized something that changed the way I saw everything. Sometimes betrayal doesn't destroy you. Sometimes, it shows you exactly where control was stolen, so you can take it back.